The sterile glow of the monitor reflected in Agent Cale's weary eyes as another late night bled into an early morning. Cale, a dedicated CIA operative, moved with a quiet efficiency born from years of unwavering commitment to national security. Every report meticulously analyzed, every threat assessed with a precision that belied the chaotic world they sought to protect. For Cale, the lines between duty and identity had long blurred, forged in the crucible of a profound personal tragedy that still echoed in the silent chambers of memory. Years ago, a devastating event had ripped through Cale's life, leaving an irreparable void. It was a wound that never truly healed, but instead transformed into an unyielding resolve. The CIA, with its promise of purpose and a chance to prevent similar catastrophes, had offered a path forward, a crucible for that raw, burning drive. Cale remembered the rigorous training, the psychological evaluations, and then, the moment of acceptance, a quiet nod that sealed a future irrevocably tied to the shadows. It was during those formative years that Agent Thorne had emerged, a figure of formidable experience and quiet authority. Thorne, a seasoned and highly respected operative, had taken Cale under their wing, imparting not just tactical skills, but also the nuanced wisdom required to navigate the treacherous currents of global intelligence. Thorne's mentorship had been invaluable, a steady hand guiding Cale through the labyrinthine corridors of espionage, shaping them into the formidable operative they were today. The bond between them was more than professional. It was a deep, unspoken understanding forged in shared risks and mutual respect. Today, however, the air in the secure intelligence room felt unusually heavy. Cale was tasked with what seemed like a routine intelligence gathering operation, monitoring communications from a particularly volatile region. The targets were known agitators, their digital footprints usually predictable, but something felt off. A subtle dissonance in the data, a flicker of an anomaly that Cale's finely honed instincts couldn't ignore. The operation, designed to be a straightforward sweep, began to unravel with an alarming speed. A critical data breach, instantaneous and devastating, suddenly compromised a secure server, scattering highly classified operational details across untraceable networks. Panic rippled through the command center. Cale's heart pounded, a cold dread seeping in. This wasn't a random attack, it felt surgical, internal. As the digital dust settled, Kyle, sifting through the debris of the breach, stumbled upon a fragment, a series of encrypted characters embedded deep within the compromised code. It was a message, subtle but unmistakable, implying a mole, a betrayal from within their own ranks. The realization was a punch to the gut, a betrayal of the very trust upon which their world was built. Ignoring protocol in the face of such a profound threat, Cale moved with a singular focus, the coded message burning in their mind. There was only one person Cale trusted implicitly, one person whose counsel was always sound. Cale found Thorne in their office, the older agent meticulously organizing files, an air of calm that suddenly felt unsettling. Cale presented the findings, the evidence of the mole, the chilling implication of internal treachery. Thorne listened, their expression unreadable, then slowly, deliberately, dismissed it. The words were clinical, almost hostile, a sharp rebuke that cut deeper than any wound. "Agent Cale, you're mistaken. This is a distraction." The response was dismissive, almost hostile, leaving Cale standing alone, the weight of the discovery now a crushing burden, and the chilling suspicion that perhaps the betrayal ran even deeper than they could have imagined. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The dismissive words from Thorne echoed in Cale's mind, a discordant note in the symphony of trust built over years. Kyle knew, with an unsettling certainty, that this was no mere distraction. The data breach, the coded message, it all pointed to a deliberate, insidious act. The seed of suspicion once planted began to sprout, twisting into an uncomfortable certainty. Kyle understood then that the official channels were compromised, the very system they swore to protect now a potential accomplice. A covert investigation was the only path forward, a dangerous descent into the shadows of their own agency. Kale began by meticulously re-examining every detail of the breach, every anomaly that Thorne had so casually dismissed. The task was daunting, fraught with the risk of exposure, but Kale's resolve was unyielding. The first few days were a blur of late nights, clandestine data cross-referencing, and an ever-growing sense of isolation. The weight of their mentor's potential betrayal pressed heavily, a constant ache beneath the surface of Kale's professional facade. It was during one such late-night delve into encrypted logs that Kale found an obscure data signature, a digital fingerprint unlike any standard agency protocol. This led to analyst Lena, a brilliant mind whose reputation for meticulousness was legendary, but whose cautious nature often kept her on the fringes of the more sensitive operations. Kale approached Lena with extreme care, presenting the evidence not as an accusation, but as an urgent puzzle requiring her unique insight. Lena, initially skeptical, her sharp eyes scanning the data with clinical detachment, slowly began to see the patterns Kale had uncovered. The sheer volume and specificity of the anomalies, the subtle deviations from expected protocols, started to sway her. Her caution warred with her intellectual curiosity, and ultimately, the compelling evidence of systemic compromise won. Together, Kale and Lena formed an unlikely alliance, their shared purpose binding them in secrecy. Their investigation quickly uncovered a disturbing pattern, a series of compromised operations over the past several months, all linked by a similar, subtle digital signature. Each operation, seemingly unrelated on the surface, had resulted in intelligence losses or strategic failures that, in hindsight, benefited a shadowy third party. The thread connecting them all led back to Thorne. Kale grappled with the emotional toll, the image of Thorne, the steadfast mentor, shattering into 1,000 pieces with each new piece of incriminating evidence. The man who had guided them, who had instilled in them the very principles of loyalty and truth, was now revealed as the architect of deceit. One rain-swept evening, as they were discreetly accessing an off-site server farm known for its lax security, a sudden, jarring noise ripped through the silence. A black sedan, its windows tinted, screeched to a halt beside their unmarked vehicle. Before they could react, figures emerged, moving with trained precision. Kale's instincts screamed danger, and they shoved Lena, who was still fumbling with her laptop, to the ground. A volley of suppressed gunfire erupted, tearing through the air where they had just stood. Kyle returned fire, creating just enough cover for them to scramble into the alleyway, narrowly escaping the ambush. The cold, calculated nature of the attack, the professional execution, pointed to a powerful adversary, one with deep connections that could mobilize such resources on a moment's notice. This was no petty thief. This was a targeted hit. The close call galvanized their efforts, adding a desperate urgency to their mission. They knew they were being hunted. Back in their makeshift, secure hideout, Lena, fueled by a surge of adrenaline, redoubled her efforts. She traced the unique digital signature from the compromised operations, not just to Thorne, but to a hidden communication channel, a ghost in the machine of secure networks. It was a complex multi-layered encryption, designed to be virtually untraceable. Hours blurred into a haze of code and caffeine. Finally, with a triumphant yet chilling gasp, Lena cracked it. The message that unfurled before their eyes confirmed their darkest fears. It was a direct communication from Thorne, detailing not only the data breach, but also outlining a much larger conspiracy, a network of influence and sabotage far more extensive than anything Kale could have imagined. The betrayal was complete, and its implications were global. The decrypted message lay bare, a venomous serpent uncoiling itself across their screen, revealing the chilling extent of Thorne's treachery. It wasn't merely a breach, nor a simple act of espionage. It was the blueprint for a global destabilization, meticulously orchestrated by a shadowy organization with tentacles reaching into the highest echelons of power. The conspiracy was vast, its ambition terrifying, to dismantle the existing world order, piece by painstaking piece, through calculated chaos and strategic manipulation. Kale felt a cold dread seep into their bones, realizing the true magnitude of what they were up against. This was not just about national security, it was about the very fabric of global stability. As Lena meticulously cross-referenced the names and coordinates embedded within Thorne's communications, A horrifying pattern emerged, one that struck Cale with a deeply personal blow. The long-ago tragedy that had fueled Cale's initial drive to join the agency, the very event that Thorne had ostensibly helped Cale overcome, was not random. It had been manipulated, a carefully engineered catalyst designed to mold Cale into a loyal, driven operative, a pawn in a much larger game. The conspirators had not just taken something from Cale, they had used Cale's pain, weaponized it, to serve their own nefarious ends. The revelation hit Cale like a physical blow, stripping away layers of self-identity and purpose. The emotional weight of this betrayal, the grotesque exploitation of their deepest wound, pushed Cale to the very precipice of despair. Every memory, every word of counsel from Thorne was now tainted, a cruel mockery. While Cale wrestled with this devastating personal truth, Lena continued to work with relentless focus, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Their makeshift hideout, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, every shadow a potential threat. Their paranoia was well-founded. One evening, as Cale stepped out for a moment, seeking to clear their head in the biting night air, a familiar glint caught their eye from a parked car down the street. It was a surveillance lens, unmistakably belonging to the agency's covert ops unit. Thorne's operatives were closing in. Cale ducked back inside, heart pounding, the cold sweat of a near exposure clinging to their skin. They had been seen, identified. The window of opportunity was rapidly shrinking. The realization that they were isolated, hunted by their own agency, settled in with a chilling finality. There was no one to trust, no official channel to turn to. The very institution Cale had sworn to protect was now compromised, its resources turned against them. They were truly alone, two fugitives against a global network of power and deceit. But isolation also brought clarity. If they couldn't rely on the system, they would have to break it. A risky plan began to form in Cale's mind, a desperate gamble that was their only chance. The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. They would infiltrate a high-security facility, one identified in Thorne's decrypted messages as a central hub for the conspiracy's operations. It was a fortress, heavily guarded, designed to be impenetrable. Their objective, to acquire irrefutable evidence, data that would not only expose Thorne but unravel the entire dark tapestry of the global destabilization plot. The details were meticulously laid out by Lena, combining her technical genius with Cale's tactical expertise. Every contingency was considered, every potential obstacle analyzed. The stakes were absolute. As they gathered their limited equipment, the air in their hideout crackled with a potent mix of fear and grim determination. Cale looked at Lena, a silent understanding passing between them. This was it. Failure meant not just their demise, but the triumph of a sinister agenda that threatened the world. With a heavy breath, Cale nodded, the weight of the world resting squarely on their shoulders. They knew that as they prepared for this infiltration, failure meant certain death. But success, however improbable, meant a chance at redemption, a chance to reclaim a world teetering on the brink. The night air bit with a crisp, unforgiving chill as Cale and Lena approached the perimeter of the enemy facility, a hulking monolith of reinforced concrete and shadowed glass. The compound hummed with a low, almost imperceptible thrum of power, an ominous heartbeat in the desolate landscape. Cale moved with the silent grace of a predator, each step measured, each shadow a potential ally. Lena, positioned miles away in their makeshift command center, was Cale's eyes and ears. A digital ghost navigating the facility's complex security grid. The initial breach was a symphony of precision and nerve. Cale scaled a sheer wall, the specialized gear gripping the cold surface with reassuring tenacity, while Lena expertly bypassed the external sensor network, painting a clear path through the laser grids and motion detectors. Inside, the labyrinthine corridors were a sterile maze, bathed in the dim glow of emergency lighting. Cale navigated through them, a phantom, every sense heightened, every sound amplified. The constant crackle of Lena's voice in the earpiece was a lifeline, guiding Cale past patrolling guards, deactivated cameras, and pressure plates. A sudden, unexpected resistance materialized in a dimly lit section. A squad of heavily armed operatives, their movements practiced and efficient, rounded a corner, their weapons raised. Kyle reacted with a blur of motion, a testament to years of rigorous training. The ensuing close-quarters combat was brutal and swift, Kyle moving like a dancer of death, disarming, neutralizing, leaving behind a trail of unconscious figures. Each strike was precise, each move calculated, a lethal ballet performed in the heart of the enemy's lair. Kale's combat and tactical skills, honed over countless missions, were pushed to their absolute limits, and they emerged from the skirmish, breathing heavily, but otherwise unscathed, a testament to their unwavering focus. Deeper within the facility, Kale found themselves in a central command room, a hub of activity despite the late hour. Monitors flickered with encrypted data streams, global maps, and schematics of critical infrastructure. Seated at the central console was a figure, their back to Kale, radiating an aura of cold authority. This was clearly a high-ranking member of the conspiracy, not Thorne himself, but a significant player. The confrontation was tense, a silent standoff broken by the low hum of the servers. The operative, a woman with sharp, calculating eyes, slowly turned, her face devoid of surprise, as if she had been expecting Kale. Her words were cryptic, hinting at a philosophical justification for their actions, a twisted vision of a new world order born from chaos. She spoke of Thorne not as a leader, but as a crucial cog in a much larger, older machine, revealing the conspiracy's roots ran far deeper than Kale had initially imagined. As Kale moved to secure the room, their gaze fell upon a small, unassuming desk in the corner. There, amidst a stack of technical manuals, lay a worn, leather-bound journal, its cover etched with familiar initials, Thorne's journal. Kale's heart lurched. Opening it, they saw Thorne's distinctive handwriting, detailing not just operational plans but also personal reflections, justifications for his betrayal, a chilling descent into radical ideology. It was irrefutable proof, a tangible piece of the man Kale had once admired, now a stark reminder of his profound deception. The emotional struggle was agonizing. The lines between justice and personal loyalty blurred into an unbearable torment. The betrayal was real, deep, and utterly devastating. With Lena's remote expertise, Kale quickly downloaded critical evidence from the command room's servers, encrypted files, financial ledgers, and communication logs that would expose the entire operation, from its shadowy financiers to its insidious global reach. This was it, the smoking gun they had risked everything for. Just as the final data transfer completed, a chillingly familiar voice echoed from the doorway. "Running, Kale? You always were one for theatrics." Thorne stood there, silhouetted against the dim corridor light, a pistol held loosely in his hand, his eyes cold, devoid of the warmth Kale had once known. The air crackled with unspoken history, betrayal, and a devastating confrontation that was now unavoidable. The air in the command room crackled with a tension far thicker than the dust motes dancing in the dim light. Thorne's voice, once a source of comfort and guidance, now sliced through Kale like a shard of ice. His presence, silhouetted in the doorway, was a stark image of betrayal made flesh. Kyle's hand instinctively went to the weapon holstered at their side, but a part of them hesitated, still grappling with the ghost of the mentor Thorne once was. The man before them, however, was a stranger, his eyes cold, reflecting a chilling conviction. "Theatrics?" Kale's voice was low, laced with a pain that transcended anger. "You call exposing your treason theatrics?" Thorne stepped fully into the room, his movements fluid, predatory. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, devoid of warmth. "Treason? No, Kale. This is liberation, a necessary reset. The world you cling to is a decaying corpse. I am merely hastening its burial." His voice held a chilling calm, a fanatic's certainty that sent a shiver down Kale's spine. He spoke of a world choked by complacency, blinded by false promises, a world ripe for dismantling. His motivations, laid bare in that moment, were a twisted ideology born from past grievances, from what he perceived as the agency's failures, and a profound, insatiable thirst for power, not for himself, but for the order he envisioned. He saw himself not as a destroyer, but as a surgeon, cutting away the rot to allow new growth no matter how brutal the operation. The words were a bitter poison, but Cale had no time to digest them. Thorne lunged, moving with a speed Cale remembered from countless training exercises, but now imbued with a deadly intent. The pistol clattered to the floor as Cale dodged, countering with a swift practice strike. A brutal hand-to-hand combat sequence erupted, a visceral dance of fists and feet, every move a testament to years of shared training now turned against each other. Cale fought with a desperate ferocity, fueled by betrayal and the weight of the evidence they carried. Thorne, however, fought with the cold precision of a man who believed himself righteous, his strikes powerful, calculated, aiming to incapacitate, to silence. A jarring blow to Cale's temple sent stars exploding behind their eyes, momentarily disorienting them. Thorne pressed his advantage, a knee rising towards Cale's midsection. Just as impact seemed inevitable, Lena's voice, sharp and urgent, crackled in Cale's earpiece. "Cale, south wall, 3 o'clock, ventilator shaft access." It was a vital distraction, a piece of information that shifted Cale's focus, breaking Thorne's rhythm for a critical fraction of a second. Cale used the momentary lapse, twisting out of Thorne's grip, leveraging their weight, and sending Thorne stumbling backwards into a console. Through sheer will and a surge of adrenaline, Cale gained the upper hand. The fight became a blur of defensive blocks and offensive strikes, Cale pushing Thorne relentlessly, forcing him onto the back foot. Finally, with a powerful, calculated move, Cale disarmed Thorne, sending his second weapon skittering across the floor. Thorne, now weaponless, lunged again, desperation etched on his face. But Cale met him with a final, decisive blow, sending him sprawling to the ground, momentarily stunned. As Thorne lay gasping, Cale moved swiftly to the main console, the evidence transfer still pending its final confirmation. Thorne, even in defeat, was not done. With a guttural roar, he lunged for a control panel, his hand reaching for a large red button labeled System Purge. It was a desperate act of sabotage, an attempt to erase all traces of his conspiracy, to take down the entire network rather than let Cale expose it. Cale saw it, the flicker of malicious intent in Thorne's eyes, the final, desperate gamble. For a fleeting second, Cale considered a different path, a path of vengeance, of allowing Thorne to be swallowed by his own destruction. But the image of Lena, the trust in her eyes, the weight of the evidence, and the memory of the innocent lives Thorne's plot threatened, flashed through Cale's mind. A difficult moral choice presented itself, a reflection of Cale's core values that had always guided them. Cale wouldn't let Thorne dictate the terms of this ending. With a swift, brutal kick, Cale dislodged Thorne's hand from the panel, preventing the purge. The final data packet transferred, a digital sigh of relief echoing in the silent room. The evidence was successfully transmitted, secured in Lena's hands, beyond Thorne's reach. Cale, bruised and battered, but victorious, knew their mission in the facility was complete. Leaving Thorne incapacitated but alive, Cale made their escape, disappearing into the labyrinthine corridors. Thorne's fate, however, remained ambiguous, a lingering threat, a question mark hanging in the cold, sterile air, ensuring that the fight was far from over. The revelation of Thorne's conspiracy sent shockwaves through the Central Intelligence Agency, tearing through its hallowed halls like a Category 5 hurricane. The exposure of such deep-seated corruption, orchestrated by a highly respected figure, forced an unprecedented period of introspection and widespread reforms. Committees were formed, investigations launched, and a new era of transparency, albeit reluctantly, began to dawn. Agent Kyle, the architect of this seismic shift, was hailed as a hero, a symbol of integrity in a system teetering on the brink of collapse. Yet the accolades felt hollow, the commendations a faint echo against the emotional scars left by Thorne's betrayal. The weight of what had transpired, the shattering of trust, the brutal realization that their mentor had been a wolf in sheep's clothing, gnawed at Cale's soul. The victory was undeniable, but the cost, personal and profound, was immeasurable. Analyst Lena, whose quiet brilliance and unwavering support had proven pivotal, received well-deserved recognition for her vital role. Her technical prowess and unwavering loyalty, had been the bedrock upon which Kale's investigation was built. She emerged from the shadows of her analytical desk into the spotlight, a new and trusted ally whose insight would undoubtedly shape the agency's future. Their bond, forged in the crucible of clandestine operations and profound danger, was now unbreakable, a testament to shared purpose and mutual respect. In the quiet solitude of their apartment, Kale grappled with the lingering shadows of Thorne's twisted ideology. Revenge, a primal urge, whispered promises of catharsis, of finality. But Kale's moral compass, though battered, remained true. The path of justice, arduous and often unsatisfying, was the only one that aligned with the principles they had sworn to uphold. Redemption, not just for the agency, but for the ideals it represented, became the guiding star. The world Thorne envisioned, one built on chaos and manufactured order, was a stark contrast to the one Kale fought to protect. This was not merely about punishing a traitor. It was about reaffirming the values of a free society. A chilling thought often intruded upon Kale's rare moments of peace. Thorne's fate remained ambiguous. The official report stated his disappearance, a convenient narrative for an agency eager to close a devastating chapter. But Kale knew better. The absence of a body, the lack of definitive closure, left a lingering question mark, a subtle hint that Thorne, or at least his insidious ideology, might still be alive, festering in some hidden corner of the world. The seeds of his philosophy, sown in the fertile ground of discontent and grievance, could easily sprout anew. This realization fueled Kale's renewed sense of purpose, transforming personal pain into a deeper, more profound commitment. Kale looked towards the future, no longer with the naive idealism of a fresh recruit, but with the hardened resolve of a seasoned guardian. The lessons learned from Thorne's betrayal were etched deep, a permanent reminder of the vigilance required to protect not just national security, but the very essence of truth and freedom. The cynicism that threatened to consume Kale was tempered by the unwavering belief in the good that still existed, in the countless dedicated agents who served with honor. The fight for a better world, Kale understood, was not a singular battle won, but an ongoing, relentless struggle. In this commitment, Kale found a profound if somber peace. The weight of the world still rested on their shoulders, but now it was a familiar burden, one carried with purpose and clarity. The hero's mantle felt less like a reward and more like a renewed oath, a silent promise to remain forever vigilant, forever dedicated. The world would continue to be a complex tapestry of light and shadow, but Kale, scarred yet resolute, would always stand as a bulwark against the encroaching darkness, a guardian of justice in a world that constantly demanded it. The journey was far from over, but Kale was ready.